Hi, thank you so much. My name is Zipho Sikhakhane, and I'm so excited to go for gold with all of you today. I'm an individual who's just passionate about helping businesses, helping individuals, helping the world over, just really unleash their true potential, and look forward to having this conversation today. So I come from a small township in KwaZulu-Natal called Madadeni. So I was born and I was raised there. So I come from very humble circumstances. I was raised in a single parent household. And there was quite a lot of us actually in my home, just because I was raised by an individual who was a sort of Mother Teresa, sort of took on the nation and involved everyone and sort of gave back to everyone as much as possible. And so I grew up being part of a community. And I am actually a product of the spirit of Ubuntu, because it was everyone around me in the community that I was in the environment that I was in, that really went that extra mile and took responsibility to really help me become the individual, right, that I have become today. Yeah, I had many challenges growing up, but the one that stands out is, I think, when you're an individual whom in a world where, because of how I look and how I am, and where I was based already by default, the opportunities that were available, to me, around me, were quite limited. And so it was important for me to put that struggle, to do that push as much as possible, so that I basically defy the circumstances and find a way to show that, honestly, where you come from doesn't necessarily need to determine where you need to go. And I didn't let limitations in the education opportunities that I had, for example, or whether it's recreational opportunities that I had, I didn't let that limit what I see as being my potential, really, and what I can do. Yes, no, for sure, for sure. There was some major conflicts, just because I've always been passionate about business. I've always wanted to be a businesswoman, or grow to add some value in the world of business and develop leaders. And when I was young, my family was very supportive. My parents were also very supportive. I've always had entrepreneurial ventures since as early as the age of 5, right through high school, right through university, and even in my adult life. But definitely it was a tension point when I decided to leave corporate and actually go fully entrepreneurial. It was hard for my family to support. I mean, my mom didn't get it. It's not something that people do. Like, why would you leave a job so that you can create something, right? And it was a big conflict in my life, but I stayed true to vision. And I just said, you know what? If I take an opportunity to try something that I feel is true to me, people will understand and people will get it. And I've been surprised. The support has been phenomenal from all different parts of my life, because people see when you are living in your higher purpose space, higher energy space, it makes a big difference. Yes, there's definitely been moments where we've had this conflicts, because when I was younger, I've always been passionate about doing something in business. I've always loved the idea of being in business and being involved in businesses. And when I was younger, my family was quite supportive. They supported all my ideas. I was an entrepreneur since I was 5, in high school, in university. I was always doing something, even in the corporate and professional space. But at a point where I decided to leave the corporate world and really just follow my dreams and be entrepreneurial, it was a conflict point. I mean, one of my closest people is my mom, and she didn't get it. Like many in South Africa, it's not a choice that people make. Like, who leaves a job to go put their mind into something else? But I did it. And actually, after the fact, they supported me in many ways, because they realized, something magical happens when someone is following their higher purpose, when they're actually operating in the space of their calling. It makes a big difference. Right. Yeah, so one of the biggest turning points in my life was when I had an opportunity to spend some time actually living outside of my home country. I went to do my MBA at Stanford University in California. And being in that space, I mean, it's at the heart of Silicon Valley. It's a different world altogether. It opened my mind, right? I mean, in that environment, you started seeing what is actually possible. It opened my mind to start seeing that, you know what? You can be the best at whatever you want to be, right? And what that unleashed in me is that, as much as I'm passionate about leadership, I can actually go out there and become that voice and become that symbol and become that existence that says you can just be whatever you aspire to be in life. It's up to you to be intentional about it and actually go for it. And since then, I've actually never looked back. I've always then been committed and saying, okay, fine, how do we make sure that we all become the best versions of ourselves that we can become?
Grace.
Yes. It's funny, the question about, is it luck, is it hard work, it is actually great. So there's a big thing around, opportunity meeting the right timing. and you actually being well positioned at the time because you're working hard to be seen, to being at that right frequency. So a lot of people spend their lives living someone else's life, okay? And when you make a choice to say, I want to live the life that I believe I'm destined to live, all of a sudden, the right opportunities come, right? At the right time. So it is a combination. Ultimately, things happen, for a reason. We never really know when things are going to happen. But eventually, the dots do connect. So in the immediate term, one of the things that I've realized is that I'm ultimately a limited resource. There's so many people that I want to reach in the world, but physically to get to all of them, it's not possible. And so the next couple of months and probably the next few years, my big thing is around how do I make sure that all this content, all this expertise, all these insights that I have about effectiveness, success, and leadership, how do I make sure that it's available in the world? Like, for example, I've just recently released a podcast. There's some books that are coming out, and there's a whole series of content where the idea is get it out to the world so that some kids sitting in China or in India, or Soweto, they're able to reach to this, take it and say, you know what, this made a big difference in my life. So that's a priority in the immediate term. And then if I go beyond that, as if we could predict the future, but I've always had this idea of building a leadership center. And it's an idea where individuals can actually come, the same tools that I've been able to help leaders of big multinationals leverage. The average man on the streets can also benefit from that, so finding ways to create that center, whether it's virtual, whether it's physical, it's just a space where people can get to be and unleash the best versions of themselves. And if I even think long beyond that, many ideas, but the one that comes to mind is definitely building, my own family, having that opportunity to have individuals, that I've had the privilege of bringing to this world, growing, etc. But just outside of that, I think the big thing for me for the rest of my life is elevating my level of consciousness and really investing in my journey of mindfulness and just mastery of self, because the more conscious and the more awake you become, the more effective you are, and the bigger the chance to have that influence that's aligned with your purpose, when you exist in the world. And so increasing in that depth is a lifetime mission. It's a lifetime goal. Love, what is that? No, you make time. That's the most important thing. It's important in life to be as balanced as you possibly can, right? And I don't mean balance in terms of, is it work, is it life? I think it's around where do you get your energy from? Some people get their energy from the community that they spend their time with. Some people get their energy from their partner. Some people get their energy from their work. Some people get their energy from their sports. So it's important to find out where you get your energy from. And there's moments where I need to do introverted activities. That's when I'm like, leave me alone. But there's times where I need to actually be with individuals, right? And really be in the space where I feel safe and I get that space of comfort. So it's really important to just know what you need and then go for it. Amazing. One of the things that I'm loving about what's happening in the world is that we're starting to realize just how interconnected we all are. We've spent like centuries trying to identify points of difference. And now we're actually realizing that we're more similar than we've ever been, right? And we're starting to become more in sync. I mean, look at nature, for example. The tree plays its role, the soil, the rain, they're all in sync. It's the same with human beings. We're part of this natural ecosystem. We are actually interconnected. And the fact that we're starting to realize that boundaries like countries, like races, like gender, et cetera, those are just things that we made up. We're more connected than with what we believe. And having traveled to now 39 countries, you see different parts of the world and you actually realize we have more in common. We have more to connect about, as individuals. And it's up to us to actually take that step to say, I would like to get to know you better. Help me understand this and that, instead of being scared of a context that you're not familiar with. It's funny you ask it that way. I think women have always run the world, right? Beyonce said it. A lot of us are products of just these phenomenal women that helped us become what we are today. So I think it's high time that, the world allows more and more and more women to occupy the spaces of leadership. Not just because I think women should be the leaders only. I just think you need as a biggest mix as you can of different kinds of leaders so that we can benefit from the different strengths. Because from a woman perspective, you also have certain feminine energies and strengths that you bring. There's masculine ones that also come from a more male dominant. But if we're living in a world where it's very male dominated in how we're being led, we're actually cheating ourselves, right, of a certain strengths and benefits that we can get from more diverse leaders. So I encourage it, not because I think, the era has ended for men, no. I just think we need a space where we can actually let different kinds of leaders coexist at the same time. Yes. One of the things about life is that life is about peaks and valleys. You don't get to choose one or the other. They coexist. Peak doesn't exist without a valley next to it. That's one of the most important things. And it's really learning that when you are at the bottom, when you are at that valley, in that difficult time, in that difficult moment, to actually reflect and sit and say, can I learn to sit with the discomfort and be okay with sitting with the discomfort? Because if you get up too quickly, you miss the opportunity to learn, to grow, and to let the moment be. And so difficulty is a part of life, especially in the instant gratification world that we live in now. We want things fixed today. We want the problem to go away. But if you look 5 years later and you look at your most difficult moments in life, that's when you actually achieve your highest growth. And that's what enabled you to get to that peak. But it's not easy, right? And so for me, I always say then it's about learning to understand yourself better so that you watch out for those cues, because there's moments where you can help yourself, right? And that's okay, but there's moments where you can't. There's moments where you can't. And it's important to have that army of people in life. I always say you need 5 at least. There's these 5 people whom you can call. And they play different roles, of course. Some people when you need someone to lift you up, some people to get you out of a state of, I think I'm not awake, can you wake me up? But they have different roles in life. Some people just help you laugh. But you need that army, because there's no ways that you can aspire to achieve anything worthwhile in life without making sure that you have that support in yourself, but also in the community of the people that you surround yourself with. Action. The 5 people you need in your life, it varies by person, but some of the most obvious ones for me is you need someone who can just ground you. Right? Someone who can help you just ground and stay here. It doesn't matter how much success you've achieved, doesn't matter how much difficulty you're in, they help you to stand grounded. You need someone who's going to help you see the future, right? Energize you about this is where we can go, this is what you could do. They show you possibility. You also need someone who can help you actually get connected to certain individuals and certain spaces that maybe you need to be able to get to the next area of your life. You also need people whom you can just laugh with, right? That's it. Can we just laugh? Because laughter is the best medicine. And then I think the last one for me is very, very important is the people who restore and preserve your energy. Because let's be honest, there's people who drain your energy, but there's individuals you interact with and all of a sudden you feel like not only is it a mutual exchange, maybe it's a net positive. They're actually getting a lot from you getting a lot, but they're also getting a lot from that energy exchange between the two of you. So I've been a writer for most of my life. One of the moments I was published when I was young in a book of inspirational women's stories. We actually launched it in Asia, in Singapore. And I've been published in many different things ever since. And so definitely what to look out for is planning to release a book on leadership, especially the importance of leadership and how it begins with you, and various other techniques that I've carved through this phase of life. But if I think of books that have been written with other people or by other people that I would recommend, definitely Brené's Brown book on daring greatly, right? Just having that courage to, unleash and be authentic, bring that best version of yourself and take that risk to be, okay with who you are and walk in life where you are comfortable and you are being you. Again, instead of existing as a version of yourself that's not really authentic to who you are. My other favorites, it's a classic, this one, but Who Moved My Cheese? We get attached, right? We get attached to stuff, but life is all about change. I've given so many talks for over the years just about the fact that change is the only constant. It's about you realizing, how do I keep adapting so that as the environments change around me, I'm able to adapt so that I can navigate different fears. And let's be honest, as a world over, the pandemic was probably one of the biggest, wake-up calls we all had at the same time. And so it forced all of us to get that opportunity to say, what is my way of adapting and coping with changes around me? Because there's no way of going around them, basically. Yes, sure. So one of my favorite quotes since I've been young is simplicity is the essence of elegance. So it's trying to just do things as simple as you possibly can, but with as much grace, right, as you possibly can. Embody grace, be grace. That's actually my theme for this phase of my life, just being gracious in everything that I do. And another quote that I always refer to is that you should never let, where you come from determine where you are going, okay? It lets you learn and understand, and it gives you perspective and maybe a form of grounding. But it's up to you to really think about, this is where I want to go, and really start painting that mental picture of where you would like to go. The other one also that I've said often is that you should always see the thing that makes you different as a source of strength, not as a source of inadequacy. You know, when you are the other and you are different, the world tells you that something is wrong with you. And I'm like, but that's your gift. That's what you're bringing. So how do you use that as a strength? Because no one has it but you. And really leaning on that. Yeah. No, and I get that a lot. And, you know, if I had the capacity to mentor all the people who reached out to me, I'll have to live probably maybe 200-300 years times a couple of times. So what I've decided to do instead is then really find ways so that there's content, there's opportunities for people to actually then interact with the insights and the wisdom that I have. Because let me tell you why, right? The concept of mentorship, you know, there's one model where you have someone that you go to and they give you advice through different stages of life. But I've always just, you know, you pick a few individuals. If there's something you admire in them, one conversation, that's it. If it's not a conversation, read the book. They didn't hide it. Watch an episode. The biggest challenge is rather on implementing what they say. That's what most people struggle with. But the most successful people in the world, they don't hide how they became successful. I just think we sometimes don't take enough action to follow the advice that they give us.
You can do, that definitely you'll be where they are.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that.
Exactly. And not just being able to do everything that, let's say, Oprah said she did. Just do 10%. That's it. You know, find the 5% that you can connect with. So that's what I do. So if you look at my journey to success, you could never really label it to say this was one person who helped me or 2 people or 3 people. No, it's actually a combination of wisdom that I've pulled in different stages of my life by being inspired by different artists, you know, different business people, different successful people in different areas. And that's a combination. Of learning from all those experiences and finding the best version of me coming out of that, as opposed to trying to become someone else that you are not.
Success.
Yeah.
To be successful.
Yes, and it's funny how, you know, the world is finally realizing that we've had the metric of success wrong. So success used to be, you know, the big house, the big car, all the money, etc. But now we're starting to realize that it's actually about freedom. That's what I think success is about, you know, having the freedom of time, having the freedom of location, and of course finances where possible, but just that freedom to be able to choose where and how you spend your time, that for me is the biggest, one of the biggest ways to reflect on what success means.
This is UNESCO, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Like you are just coming from KwaZulu-Natal and
yes,
you're able to go that far.
Yes.
What do you want to do? Become the president of South Africa? I'll support you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel there's better qualified individuals in the country to run it,
So
and I will support them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think with the awards, I'm always surprised, you know, when I get a call. I mean, almost every year something comes up about we've selected you for this award, this. I appreciate it in the moment, but the thing is, for me, I've always just believe you should just be. You should just be. And so when someone actually recognizes you for the efforts or the great work that you've done, it's something that I appreciate, and it just reaffirms that me being the best version of myself is really inspiring someone else to not only recognize it, but to also hopefully inspire others to find best versions of themselves. Yeah, of course. I think one of the wonderful things about millennials today is that they have access to so many things that a lot of generations before didn't have, whether it's technology, whether it's opportunities, whether it's being exposed to different career options, you know, than what was possible, you know, in our time. And so I just think there's so much opportunity, there's so much variety to just be any version of yourself that you can be. And this is an opportunity for millennials to really go for that and grab it as much as possible. The lesson for them to grow on, though, is that, you know, this thing of instant gratification, right? We want things to happen now, you know, the short attention span, 9 seconds, 6 seconds now. It's just learning that things do take time. Okay, and to get anywhere in life, you need to be consistent at something, right? You can't just get everything you want today, and there's something about putting in that effort into one thing, into 2 things, into 3 things, right? So that ultimately one of them can give you that success that you're looking for.
Gold is an inspiration.
Yes. You know what I wish for gold is that everyone realizes that to reach whatever you want in life, stay optimistic. Stay optimistic. I mean, the mind has such a strong bias towards everything that's broken. Focus on what's working. Focus on what's working well. but also build that confidence in yourself to say, you know what, I've got my toolkit to help me navigate life. But most important, stay grounded. You know, never let it get to your head. Never let the ego run the show. It's that central message in my podcast just around how do you think about leaning on these things so that you can be successful by being grounded in yourself, by being confident, but staying optimistic. You know, it's a non-negotiable.
Teaching it.
Absolutely. So one of the big things is meeting people where they are, you know, and helping them move from where they are to where they want to go. Now, in terms of being consistent, right? When someone gives you tools or techniques, try this, try that. To be consistent, some things you need external reinforcement. You know, you need someone to hold you accountable. So go tell people, go do this. But certain things you can hold yourself accountable. You say, I've made a commitment, and you honor it. Some people just say, I want to go to the gym, and they do it 5 times, and that's it. And then some people say, I want to go to the gym, but I need other people to reinforce it for me. So it's really understanding which type of individual are you? What gets you to get going? What gets you to do stuff? Is it a reward at the end? Is it the impacts that you get to have? So focusing on what you're trying to get to on the other side and what drives you. I found that effective in being consistent in life.
How did you do it?
Yeah. So I think it's one of those things that when in life you do something that's aligned so much with your higher purpose, you don't even have to work hard to make a difference when you're doing it. And for me, I've always been a writer at heart. I just repeated it. Should I just redo the line or that whole thing?
Do the whole thing because you touched
Okay.
the mic.
Yes. So what was the question again? How did you do it?
Yeah. Knowing the skills,
So-
how did you bank on that?
Yeah, so sometimes in life, when you're doing something that's aligned with your higher purpose and your higher calling, you actually don't have to do that much for you to be effective. You know, for example, for me, I've always been a writer at heart. I mean, I love expressing myself through words. I've been doing it since I was very young. And so whether I'm writing a book, whether I'm giving a talk, whether I'm creating a module, you know, for people to be effective in organizations, that's for me expressing myself in words. But it takes effort, right? So you need to put in, whether it's 10,000 hours, you know, the concept from Malcolm Gladwell, you know, you need to put in the effort into something so you can be good at it over and over again. And yes, I do read. I mean, you mentioned books. You know, they say the average CEO, I think, reads over 60 books a year. And so I try and read quite a lot of books each month because I like learning from the wisdom. You know, they say a book contains all these insights that no one is hiding from you. But as long as you don't open it, you'll never know. You'll just never know. And so I try and learn as much as possible. The keys to success, one of them is just consistency. Be consistent in something and try and stick to it for a period of time just to see it through. So consistency is one of them. But the other one is just intentionality. So every single action that I take it with intention because it's important that you live a life of design where you are the artist. Not just defaulting, you know, waking up and following the circumstances of the day. That's another important one. And then, of course, I know I've referenced this before, but this thing around just, you know, trying to stay positive as much as you can and always looking at the silver lining, always finding the bright side, always finding the growth. It helps you a lot on the journey to success. Yes. Probably the last and ultimate one is just authenticity. So finding that opportunity to just stay true to who you are, and it's very hard. But once you do that, it's actually a work, you know, to spend your days living in someone else's life or being someone else. It's less work just to be you. Even though the world is not ready for it, just be you, and already that's winning. Yes, of course. I mean, the story that I can share is just do it. Just do it. So every time I've hit any obstacle in life, any challenge, any big opportunity, any big milestone that I've wanted to go after, what I do is I just do it. I just go for it. And I say, you know what? Afterwards, the details will work themselves out. There's never a single time that I've regretted that decision. And so just do it. Just go for it. Don't question yourself. Just go for it. Okay. So I know so many people just going through so much difficulty. I mean, my own closest friends, even family. And I mean, my main message is just keeping on, hey, keep pushing on. At some point, it all makes sense. Right now, it never will, you know, but at some point you look back and it actually all makes sense. It will. So have faith and have confidence that it will make sense. But for now, you just keep pushing where you can and making sure that you fill your cup so that you have that resilience just to keep going where you need to keep going, but never push yourself beyond the limits. It's never worth it. Yeah, there's a good question around, you know, what helps as different coping mechanisms. And it's important to realize what state are you in. So So there's times where you need to release energy. Maybe someone has angered you, maybe you're upset, you activate it, right? That's when you go, punch a bag, right? Go run on the street, do something to let that energy out. But there's also times where you're like, okay, I don't think I can do this. Like, I feel like I'm about to die, like something is wrong and I'm not okay. And in that moment, there's certain tools, right, that can then help you to say whether it's someone giving you a nudge, whether it's just cold water, whether it's cold air, something, right, that brings you back. But there's also times when you're in a state of, okay, I feel like I'm at peace now. And what you need there is times in nature, listen to nature sound spaces to reflect. So actually what I like, one of the coaches that I respect, they have this thing called a delicious list. So you write a list of things that you feel are delicious to you to get you out of this different state. So for example, I have a punching bag that I punch. I run if I need to run. I go for a walk. I garden. Sometimes I hike. I do my photography. I cook. Sometimes I host big groups for a dinner. These are all activities that I do depending on the context or the state of mind that I'm in, and they really help me. So what's important is for each person just to come up with a list for themselves, because it's different per person. Some people just take a nap and they feel great, and for some people that's not the solution, and that's okay. So one of my strengths is, being a writer at heart, is that I sometimes also give talks into different contexts, different parts of the world. And if I think about what are the things that help you to be most effective when you're being an orator, is having that ability to build connection with your audience, having that ability to be authentic, having that ability to realize that it's never about the words, but actually about your presence and letting it be felt. Because ultimately communication is only, the words is only 7% of communication. The rest is actually about how you show up and how you embody. And so it's really going inside yourself and saying, you know what, at this point, this is my one opportunity to really touch these individuals. Let me make the most of this single moment, and treating that single moment with as much grace as you possibly can. Yeah, of course. So one of my biggest philosophies in life is that I think you need to learn to be a master of yourself. I call it like a CEO, of your own life, of your own operation, and finding different ways. Okay, so where do I need to optimize? Where do I need help? Where do I need to get better? Where am I behind? And putting together that thing and that tool for yourself, right? It's really important, because I think a lot of us, sometimes we just, wake up from day to day and we just kind of go with it. Whereas if you make that effort to say, you know what, but this is how I would like to influence and even design where I can, you start collaborating, right? With the world, with the universe, because what you put out there is what you get back. That's kind of how this works. And so creating that space is very important. Hi, my name is Zipho Sikhakhane, and I'm an individual who's passionate about helping leaders and businesses really achieve their growth potential. Please continue to watch Gold. Hi, my name is Zipho Sikhakhane. I'm an individual who's passionate about helping leaders and businesses and individuals worldwide just unleash their growth potential. Catch me on Gold this week. All right. Hi, my name is Zipho Sikhakhane. I'm an individual who's passionate about helping individuals, businesses, organizations worldwide just achieve their growth potential. Keep watching Gold with King Nee. Hi, my name is Zipho Sikhakhane, and I'm an individual who's passionate about helping individuals, businesses, organizations, everybody just achieve their growth potential worldwide. Catch me on Gold in the next episode, coming soon. Go for Gold.
Amazing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.